Chapter 4:14. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance. Yi Chen's expression calmed down, as if he was planning to bury the hatchet. But, when one saw his eyes, one would not think so. What kind of eyes were these? They were emotionless, colder than ice, more glaring than blood. The endless killing intent was like a volcano erupting, cracking the earth's crust, shooting out with a killing intent that seemed to be able to kill everything in its path. Clang! The two gazes were like two peerless ominous swords clashing in the air, clashing against Duan Lingyun's soul-splitting divine light. That was Yi Chen's slaughter sword intent. Pht! The soul-splitting divine light seemed to have met its nemesis, being sliced into millions of pieces. Their minds were connected, and Duan Lingyun screamed. He covered his eyes and retreated rapidly. Dark red blood could be seen flowing down from the gaps between his fingers, wriggling like snakes. Yi Chen, you dare injure my eyes? You're dead! Duan Lingyun roared. His shrill voice was filled with anger and killing intent, as well as a trace of fear. Yi Chen walked towards Duan Lingyun step by step. His footsteps were neither light nor heavy, like the countdown of the Grim Reaper, causing Duan Lingyun's soul to tremble. He said in horror, "What are you trying to do? This is Three Yin City. If you kill me, my soul-splitting sect will definitely know. At that time, no one in this world will be able to save you." Duan Lingyun's confidence had already been crushed by Yi Chen. If it was in the past, he wouldn't be afraid even if his eyes were injured. Moreover, he firmly believed that apart from a few famous peerless geniuses, he wouldn't lose to anyone. What was there to be afraid of? But now, other than anger, there was only fear in his heart. He couldn't muster the confidence to fight to the death with Yi Chen. "I don't have the intention to kill you. At least, not now. But don't challenge my bottom line." After brushing past Duan Lingyun, Yi Chen no longer paid him any attention. Duan Lingyun had an impulse to turn around and punch Yi Chen to death. Now was the best time and the most likely chance to succeed. However, he hesitated. For the first time in his life, he hesitated to kill someone. It wasn't that he hesitated to kill Yi Chen, but he didn't dare to. Damn it! Duan Lingyun knew that he'd completely failed, and his body and mind were defeated. His resentment towards Yi Chen couldn't be extinguished by the water of 3 rivers and 5 lakes, and it had already turned from resentment to resentment. Murong Qingcheng and the Supreme Elder of the Sky-Flying Devils sect noticed the situation. The elder frowned and asked, "That's your friend?" "No." Murong Qingcheng did not treat Duan Lingyun as a friend. "It's good that he isn't. This person's temperament really isn't that good." The elder was not looking down on Duan Lingyun's failure and darkness, but he was looking down on his cowardice. If he could muster the courage to fight a great battle with Yi Chen, he would have a whole new level of respect for him. Unfortunately, a seemingly powerful person still had to be strong in a hopeless situation to see if he was strong or not. Yi Chen had already forced Duan Lingyun into a hopeless situation, but he did not encounter a dying counterattack. 10 steps behind Duan Lingyun, Yi Chen shook his head as a cold smile appeared on his face. He was already prepared for a great battle, but it seemed that his opponent wasn't as strong as he seemed. "Young man, you're Yi Chen, right?" The elder suddenly transmitted his voice to Yi Chen. Yi Chen faintly nodded, "Senior, I am." "Not bad. For my South Ridra region to produce a genius like you, it's all because of luck. Keep it up." The elder was quite satisfied with Yi Chen. Of course, this was because he was calm and had no conflict with Yi Chen. If he were Yi Chen's enemy, he wouldn't have such thoughts. "Alright, you youngsters chat. I won't get involved." The elder said a few words to Murong Qingcheng, then turned around and flew toward a 33-story building. His friend was waiting for him there. Retracting his gaze, Murong Qingcheng looked at Yi Chen. "Let's go." Duan Lingyun had already left. His eyes were injured, and he needed a few days to recover. Moreover, he didn't have the face to continue staying by Murong Qingcheng's side. One could well imagine the hatred he had for Yi Chen. On the street, the two were walking side by side. There are many legends about Extreme Een region. It's said that this land has always maintained the topography of the ancient era. There have never been any topographic changes or volcanic eruptions. There are still marks of the ancient era here, and some cultural relics have been preserved quite well. While strolling, Murong Qingqing introduced Extreme Een region to Yi Chen. Yi Chen said, "The earth qi and Een qi here are too dense. It's too strange." Although there are no places on True Spirit continent that are lower than Extreme Een region, there are some that are close. However, the earth qi here is not even 1/10 of Extreme Een region's. Extreme Een region is called Extreme Een region for a reason. In the ancient era, this place was the breeding ground of demons. 3 Een city was unimaginably huge. The two walked for a long time, but only covered a small area. In the end, the two checked into the same inn. 3 Een city's western region, in the auction house's reception room. "What wind blew Een demon ancestor here? Welcome." The auction house's president walked in with a smile and cupped his hands towards the newcomer. The figure with his back facing the president turned his head. It was clearly the suspected Sea of Soul Master who had appeared in Black Stone Plains. Of course, his true identity was indeed that of a Sea of Soul Master, and he was called Een Demon Ancestor. To be able to use the word ancestor as a title, one could well imagine his strength. After all, ancestor usually represented a sect. Een Demon Ancestor grinned, "I've come this time to entrust something to your auction house." "Oh? Something that can make Een Demon Ancestor take action is certainly not ordinary. I wonder what treasure it is." The president was quite curious. Sea of Soul Masters usually bought things from auctions, and rarely auctioned them. This was because ordinary things were beneath their notice, and they would rather give them away. Good things, even if they were useless, would still be kept. "It's not a treasure, it's a map." Could it be a treasure map? Hearing these words, the president blurted out. Since it was a treasure map, the other party wouldn't auction it. Wouldn't it be better to search for treasures themselves? It's an ancient map to search for the secrets of undying body. Een Demon Ancestor said slowly. What? Secrets of undying body? President Ren, who had seen many treasures, couldn't help but feel his heartbeat quicken. Undying body. What was an undying body? It was absolutely impossible to kill, or at least extremely difficult to kill. Life and Death Kings were revered by others, not only because of their strength, but also because they possessed undying bodies. Low-level Life and Death Kings could regrow limbs, and even if their heads were chopped off, they wouldn't die, and could easily regenerate. The only exception would be if they were chopped into pieces. High-level Life and Death Kings were even more frightening, as they could regenerate from a single drop of blood. Even if one were to beat them into a pulp, they would still be able to survive. As for what the undying body represented, the president believed it to be the kind of regrowth of limbs. There had been many rumors about undying body in history, but in the end, it proved that an undying body that could be obtained before reaching life and death realm was merely the same as an ordinary Life and Death King. It wouldn't attract the attention of Life and Death Kings, and they wouldn't have the leisure to pursue things they already had. Een Demon Ancestor said confidently, "Correct, it's precisely the secret of undying body. I wonder if I have the qualifications to let your auction house auction it on my behalf. If it's real, then of course I have the qualifications. But the secret of undying body is extraordinary. If the starting price is set too high, and it's ultimately determined to be fake, it would damage my auction house's reputation." The president didn't dare to be certain that the map Een Demon Ancestor took out was the real one. Perhaps it was a fake. Such a thing had happened before. Een Demon Ancestor said, "This is simple. Set the starting price very low, and then declare that you can't confirm whether it's real or fake. Just sell it for as many spirit stones as you can. Very low." Creasing his brows, the president said, "This method is feasible, but what do you think the starting price should be?" The starting price was set, and he had to give Een Demon Ancestor half the starting price as a down payment. Therefore, they had to discuss it properly. 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Demon Ancestor said in shock. Demon Ancestor, you're joking, right? 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones is too low. Even 100,000 or 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones would be very low, very low. Of course I'm not joking. I've made 300 copies of the map. With a starting price of 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones each, 300 copies would be at least 300,000. Exceeding 1 million wouldn't be a problem. Hearing Demon Ancestor's words, the president was a bit stunned. What did he mean by making 300 copies of the map? Was he lacking spirit stones? However, if he lacked spirit stones, he could easily sell one copy for a high price. He believed that with the gimmick of Undying Body, it wouldn't be a problem for one copy to reach millions of mid-grade spirit stones, or even higher. One shouldn't forget that there were many Sea of Soul Realm experts in Extreme Een region. Not to mention millions of mid-grade spirit stones, even if they had to take out hundreds of thousands of upper-grade spirit stones, they would still fight for it. Of course, the premise was that they had to be prepared to be a sucker. And if it was divided into 300 copies, the price might rise to a high level, but it wouldn't be able to create a miracle. I've thought it through. Here are 300 copies of the map. I'll have to trouble your auction house. Demon Ancestor took out a chest from his storage ring and opened it. It was filled with beast skin scrolls with bizarre maps carved on them. All right. The president shook his head and put away the chest. He then paid Demon Ancestor 150,000 mid-grade spirit stones. He wasn't worried that Demon Ancestor would cheat. If he did, 150,000 mid-grade spirit stones wouldn't be worth it. For a Sea of Soul Realm expert, 150,000 upper-grade spirit stones would be too cheap. Then, I'll take my leave. Demon Ancestor turned around and walked out of the reception room. The moment he left, a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. At the same time, he felt a bit relieved. He had obtained this map for more than 50 years. During these 50 years, he had painstakingly studied it, wanting to find the secret of the Undying Body. However, even after 50 years, he still hadn't found a single clue. At this moment, he finally regretted obtaining this map. If he had wholeheartedly cultivated during these 50 years, it would not have been impossible for him to break through to the life and death realm. If he had become a life and death king, why would he need the secret of the Undying Body? Wasting 50 years without any harvest, no one was more sullen than him. However, directly giving up on studying the map was equivalent to completely wasting 50 years. He was unwilling to accept this fact. Finally, he thought of a method, which was to split the map into 300 copies and auction it. With 300 people helping him study the map, his hope would increase by 300 folds. Who knew, he might even have some harvest. As for why he didn't make 500 copies or 1,000 copies, it was because he was afraid that the map would be too much, which might lead to some accident. If he really wanted to make more than 1,000 copies, he might as well make it public. I hope it won't disappoint me. I'm really looking forward to that day. Demon Ancestor left full of hope. Chapter 4:15. Three City held a large-scale auction once every 3 months, and there was less than a day left until this time's large-scale auction. All of a sudden, Three City was packed with people. All the influential figures had gathered in this ancient city, including experts of various sections. Astral-reaching experts were as numerous as dogs, and Sea of Soul Realm experts were everywhere. This sentence vividly reflected the current situation of Three City. Daoist Ironwood, Old Man Sky Eagle, Rock Spirit Warrior, Three Vein Spirit Warrior, Daoist Black Snake, Yuan Gold Spirit Warrior. So many Sea of Soul Realm experts, at least a dozen. In restaurants, shops, and streets, everyone was discussing spiritedly. And this is what we saw. The number of Sea of Soul Realm experts in the entire Three City should be no less than 50, and perhaps even a few Sea of Soul Masters. Truly extraordinary. This is my first time in Extreme Een region, my first time in 3 Een city. Being able to meet a Sea of Soul Realm expert in the outside world is already a stroke of luck. That's because Sea of Soul Realm experts don't come out. Moreover, at our level, we can't come into contact with them. Wait until we reach this level, we might even be able to meet a life and death king. You're right. Each level has its own insight and social circle. On the morning of the second day, the city of 3 Een, which had been silent for the entire night, erupted with astonishing liveliness. A sea of people gathered at the auction house in the western district, and there were even more experts in the sky. They came in groups, like rapidly moving dark clouds. When Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing arrived at the entrance of the auction house, they couldn't help but reveal astonished expressions. Merely the entrance was several hundred meters wide and more than 100 meters tall. The 2 stone lions in front of the entrance were even taller than the dozens of floors of the tower, giving off an imposing aura. The top of the auction house was at least 1,000 meters tall, and had a domed shape. The 2 had never seen such a vast auction house before. Compared to this, the auction houses they had seen before were no different from thatched cottages, looking rather shabby. Let's go in. Wearing a purple dress and a veil over her face, Murong Qingqing was an existence that attracted attention wherever she went. Although Yi Chen's appearance couldn't be considered as peerlessly handsome, he was still quite handsome. Coupled with his extremely special sword artist temperament, he attracted a lot of attention. The 2 of them paused for a moment before entering the auction house side by side. The auction house had normal seats and VIP rooms. Normal seats didn't require spirit stones, while VIP rooms required 3,000 mid-rank spirit stones. Normally, no astral reaching expert would choose VIP rooms, since the total wealth of an astral reaching expert was no more than 10,000 mid-rank spirit stones. 3,000 mid-rank spirit stones was not a small burden for them, so there was no need to be so extravagant. Yi Chen naturally did not care about 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones and chose a VIP room. The auction house has a total of 5 floors. The first 2 floors are for ordinary seats, the 4th and 5th floors are for VIP rooms, and the auction stage is very high, between the 2nd and 3rd floors, a little far away from the crowd, and there is a layer of isolation zone. It seems empty and spacious. What is more special is that in front of the auction stage, there is a piece of transparent glass. This layer of glass can clearly magnify things about 10 times, to ensure that everyone can see clearly. After all, at a critical moment, if everyone releases their spiritual force, it means that no one can see, it means that accidents are inevitable. The 5th floor's VIP rooms are usually reserved for Sea of Soul Realm experts. Yi Chen didn't want to be in the limelight, so he chose a VIP room on the 4th floor that had a decent angle. Through the crystal glass of the VIP room, Yi Chen subconsciously looked around, eventually stopping at a certain angle. In his line of sight, Duan Lingyun and an old man were walking toward the 5th floor's VIP room. It should be a Sea of Soul Realm expert from Soul Sunder sect. At this point, Yi Chen had no choice but to prepare himself for a battle with a Sea of Soul Realm expert. With his current battle strength, he could contend against a Sea of Soul Realm expert who hadn't cultivated a top-grade Earth-grade martial skill, and was a bit weaker than a Sea of Soul Realm expert who had cultivated a top-grade Earth-grade martial skill but hadn't reached perfection. As for Sea of Soul Realm experts who had comprehended profound, they were not something Yi Chen could contend against. They were existences that could instantly kill him. Murong Qingqing also noticed the old man beside Duan Lingyun and said, "There's a ghost swallowing moon on his robe. If I'm not wrong, he should be Soul Sunder Sect's Supreme Elder, Ghost Moon Spiritualist." The titles of Sea of Soul Realm experts were carefully chosen. Those who hadn't comprehended profound were called Spiritualist, while those who had comprehended profound were called Taoist or something else. Above that was the title of Master. In other words, Sea of Soul Realm experts had 3 major realms in terms of battle strength, and each realm had a title. Of course, there were strong and weak in each realm, and the strong could instantly kill the weak. Spiritualist Ghost Moon was the lowest level Sea of Soul Realm expert. However, according to his identity as Supreme Elder of Soul Sunder Sect, it was impossible for him not to have cultivated a top-grade Earth-grade martial skill. As for whether he had reached perfection or not, it was not something ordinary people could know. Duan Lingyun's eyes had already recovered, but his expression was exceptionally gloomy. His cold gaze swept the surroundings as if looking for someone. Yichen didn't need to guess to know that the other party was looking for him. I hope there's something useful in the auction. Yichen admitted that he wasn't Ghost Moon's opponent, but for now, his potential was still ample. His cultivation base was at late astral reaching realm, his green lotus sword arts had yet to make a breakthrough, and his sword's soul embryo was yet to be condensed. These three aspects were still developing. As long as one of them improved, Yi Chen's battle strength would continue to grow. Ding! About an hour later, the auction house, which could accommodate 100,000 people, was nearly full. At this moment, an old man with a red face walked up from the back of the stage and knocked on the stage with a small hammer. Everyone, quiet down. The auction is about to begin. As soon as he finished, the sound waves of the auction rapidly weakened. Nodding in satisfaction, the old man revealed a faint smile. I'm Gao Hua, the auctioneer of this auction. I'm indebted to everyone for participating in this auction. I believe that everyone's trip will not be in vain. After exchanging some pleasantries, the old man cleared his throat and continued, all right, let's not waste any more time. The auction will now officially begin. Let the first item come up the stage. Immediately, two enchanting beauties carried a wooden tray and walked to the front of the stage. Lifting off the gorgeous silk covering the tray, a simple and unadorned armor appeared. The armor was deep cyan in color and overflowed with colorful lights. A wolf head was carved on the chest, giving it an extremely domineering appearance. At the same time, a frightening pressure spread out. The first item is a mid-grade defensive artifact, Cyan Wolf Armor. After being appraised by our auction house, it's a top-quality mid-grade defensive artifact, capable of amplifying defense by 35%. The starting price is 25,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. The bidding begins. A mid-grade defensive artifact right off the bat. Worthy of being 3 City's large-scale auction house. Although Yichen didn't fancy the Cyan Wolf armor, it didn't mean that it was inferior. The main reason was that the goods on his body clearly surpassed the majority of astral reaching experts. Merely an upper-grade defensive artifact, the Golden Gilt armor, was enough to tempt Sea of Soul realm experts. Moreover, he had quite a few mid-grade artifacts on him. Just because he didn't fancy it didn't mean that others didn't. There were many astral reaching experts in dire straits. Some didn't even have mid-grade offensive artifacts, not to mention mid-grade defensive artifacts, which were even more expensive. If one had a mid-grade defensive artifact for protection, their defense wouldn't be a joke in a decisive battle. At a crucial moment, they might even have a chance to save their lives. 27,000. 28,000. 35,000. 40,000. In a few blinks of an eye, the price of the Cyan Wolf armor rose from 25,000 mid-grade spirit stones to 40,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Moreover, it was still rising slowly. In the end, a wealthy astral reaching expert bought the Cyan Wolf armor with 48,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Murong Qingqing, what item do you want to auction? Since the early part of the auction wasn't worth paying attention to, Yichen turned his head and asked Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing said, you also need the item I want. It's for tempering the will. Yichen faintly nodded. He indeed needed items for tempering the will. His sword soul embryo contained the immortal intent. To condense it into a sword soul required much more will than ordinary people. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long since condensed a sword soul. He could tell that Murong Qingqing was about to condense the marshal's soul embryo. Back in the blood demon battlefield, she should have had some gains. The marshal's soul embryo is easy to condense. As for condensing it, it requires sufficient realm and comprehension. If there are enough items for tempering the will, perhaps it will be a happy ending. Yichen only wanted to raise the sword's soul embryo to the critical point. At that time, he wouldn't need too many items for tempering the will. After all, the sword's soul couldn't be condensed just because he wanted to. As time passed, the treasures on the stage became increasingly rare. Some seemingly ordinary treasures even caused the crowd to scramble to bid for them, causing the atmosphere of the stage to become incomparably fiery. Many people were enjoying the carefree feeling of spending money like dirt. The 27th item is 3 pieces of demonic evil stone. The demonic evil stone is a crystalline ore found in the depths of the extreme Yin region. It has the effect of tempering the will. Friends who haven't condensed a marshal's soul should pay attention. This kind of thing is rarely seen in this auction. Let the bidding begin. The starting price is 50,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Hearing these words, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing's eyes brightened. The demonic evil stone's effect might be inferior to the blood evil stones, but it was still meat. It wouldn't change. 55,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 60,000. 63,000. The peak astral reaching experts and extreme astral reaching experts, who hadn't made any moves, were scrambling to bid. As for those ordinary astral reaching experts, they didn't have the qualifications to bid. Moreover, they were still far from condensing a marshal's soul embryo. There was no need for them to spend all their wealth to buy something they couldn't use at the moment. 70,000. In the 5th floor's VIP room, Duan Lingyun also joined the bidding. Yi Chen smiled. He didn't intend to bid for the time being. 75,000. Murong Qingqing, who was beside him, raised her hand. It's Qingqing. Forget it, I'll give her 1 or 2 when I buy it. Duan Lingyun creased his brows and continued bidding. 80,000. Chapter 4:16. Damn it, 85,000. The auction house was full of dragons and snakes. Duan Lingyun and Murong Qingqing were not the only ones with deep pockets. Therefore, even though the price had been raised to 80,000 mid-grade spirit stones, there were still many people bidding. Murong Qingqing's expression didn't change. 90,000. 95,000. 120,000. Duan Lingyun steeled his heart and increased the price by 30,000, which was already close to the limit of 3 demonic evil stones. Murong Qingqing had clearly come prepared, raising the price by another 10,000. Lingyun, give up if you exceed 150,000. The auction has just begun. Ghost Moon reminded Duan Lingyun. I know. Duan Lingyun nodded and said inwardly, Qingqing, sorry, but I must have the demonic evil stones. Wait until I condense the martial spirit embryo, I'll give you the extra. Thinking up to this point, he extended his hand, 150,000 mid-grade spirit stones. As soon as the price of 150,000 came out, all the voices disappeared. The limit of a demonic evil stone was around 40 to 50,000, and 3 of them would be between 120,000 to 150,000. Exceeding this price would require careful consideration. After all, for peak astral reaching experts and extreme astral reaching experts, 150,000 mid-grade spirit stones were equivalent to their entire fortune, and the auction was not even halfway through. This time, Murong Qingqing didn't continue bidding. She glanced at Yi Chen and knew that he was rich. As for how rich he was, she didn't know. It's about time to make a move. Yi Chen raised his hand and bid 160,000. Whoosh! As soon as Yi Chen's voice was heard, a commotion arose in the auction house. Although demonic evil stones were rare, they were only effective for astral reaching experts who had yet to condense a martial spirit. After reaching Sea of Soul Realm and successfully condensing a martial spirit, a few demonic evil stones wouldn't be of much use. Therefore, the bidders were bound to be astral reaching experts. However, astral reaching experts who could bid 160,000 mid-grade spirit stones were few and far between. It should be known that there were many auctions in Extreme Yin region, and many rich people had already squandered their wealth. Yi Chen's voice startled Duan Lingyun. He clenched his teeth and bid 180,000 regardless of Ghost Moon's warning. I can crush you in terms of wealth. As the eldest disciple of the soul-sundering sect, Duan Lingyun was extremely wealthy. At this moment, he had no other intentions other than to suppress Yi Chen. Almost 4 times the price had moved a lot of people. What did it mean to be rich and overbearing? This was it. An increase of tens of thousands was like a game to him. Many astral reaching experts felt their hearts twitch. Damn it, comparing oneself to others was infuriating. Each time the other increased the price, it was equivalent to all of their wealth. If they could make it this far, they would be considered outstanding. 200,000, unfortunately, as soon as Duan Lingyun's voice fell, Yi Chen raised the price by 20,000, reaching a huge figure of 200,000. This caused the hearts of the crowd to palpitate. This seemed to be even more ruthless. The tone of the voice was calm, as though 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones were nothing to him. His wealth is at least 500,000 yuan. Murong Qingcheng, who was standing to the side, inwardly guessed. Yi Chen sat steadily on the leather chair. He had no intention of giving up on the demonic evil stone. Only with it could his battle power continue to increase. As for mid-grade spirit stones, it was fine as long as he had enough. He didn't need to be a miser with such a huge amount of wealth. The so-called wealth should be used in the right place. Enough. Only by maintaining your rationality can you become an expert. Fighting on impulse won't do you any good. Ghost Moon, after all, had lived for more than 100 years and could see more clearly than Duan Lingyun. He stopped him from continuing. Damn it! Hearing these words, Duan Lingyun had no choice but to give up. However, this didn't mean that his heart had calmed down. The demonic evil stone was a small matter, but his face was more important. 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones going once, 200,000 going twice, 200,000 going thrice, sold. The old man shouted several times before smashing his hammer down on the stage. Soon, a beautiful attendant brought 3 pieces of demonic evil stone to Yi Chen's VIP room. After paying enough mid-grade spirit stones, Yi Chen started to look at the demonic evil stone. The demonic evil stone was an irregularly shaped crystal ore. Its shape was like coal, and its color was silver with a hint of black. Holding the demonic evil stone, Yi Chen could feel a dark evil chi penetrating through his arm and into his sea of soul. Its effect is 20% weaker than a normal blood evil stone. Yi Chen quickly distinguished the difference between the demonic evil stone and the blood evil stone. The auction continued. During this period of time, Murong Qingcheng spent 45,000 mid-grade spirit stones to buy a pair of golden gloves that were emitting a 7-colored radiance. Mid-grade gloves had always been rare, but it also meant that it would be popular. After all, there were a lot of people who practiced hand techniques. In a situation where there were too many monks and not enough meat, the price would be obviously high. Normally, a mid-grade offensive weapon would not be more than 40,000. The 34th auction item is a Bodhi bead. I believe that many people don't know the effects of the Bodhi bead. Here, I will explain it to everyone. The Bodhi bead is formed naturally. Not only does it have the effect of calming the mind, but it can also increase the user's power of understanding. Of course, this power of understanding is not permanent. Only by holding the Bodhi bead can it temporarily increase the user's power of understanding. On the auction stage, the old man explained while observing the crowd's expression. Just as he expected, the atmosphere of the entire auction house suddenly heated up. Temporarily increasing the power of understanding was indeed an amazing property. Countless people were stuck at a bottleneck, unable to break through. If they had the Bodhi bead, they might be able to reach a higher level in a short time. However, the ones who were tempted were still astral reaching experts. Sea of Soul realm experts had heard of the Bodhi bead. In fact, the effect of the Bodhi bead was to stimulate the soul power of astral reaching experts. Once the soul power was released, the power of comprehension would naturally increase. However, Sea of Soul realm experts could already release their soul power. The Bodhi bead is useless to me. Yi Chen shook his head. Battle Emperor had once obtained a Bodhi bead. Therefore, he knew the secret of the Bodhi bead. His soul power was equivalent to a powerful Sea of Soul realm expert. he simply didn't need the Bodhi bead to increase his power of understanding. Humph, it's just a Bodhi bead. My Soul Sunder's sect has a 10,000-year ancient tea tree. It can also increase one's power of understanding. Moreover, I cultivate the Soul Sunder Divine Eyes, which can stimulate soul power. My power of understanding is much higher than ordinary people. Duan Lingyun disdained the so-called Bodhi bead. The starting price of the Bodhi bead is 70,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. The bidding begins. The old man saw the anxious expressions of the crowd and revealed a faint smile. 80,000. 90,000. 100,000. The crowd was too lazy to increase the price by 1,000, and directly increased it by 10,000. Such a good thing was something they had never heard of before. 150,000. Morong Chingcheng's voice transmitted out. I don't need this Bodhi bead, but there are many people who have their eyes on it. The price will rise to a high level. Yi Chen said. You don't need it. Morong Chingcheng was flabbergasted. She was the most worried about Yi Chen. Yi Chen's net worth was at least 500,000, which was not something she could compare with. Unexpectedly, the other side had no intention of bidding. She couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, rejoicing that she didn't bid for the demonic evil stone. If she had, she wouldn't have enough spirit stones. Moreover, this Bodhi bead would undoubtedly drive people crazy. Even 200,000 or 300,000 spirit stones would be in danger. Damn, are you going to let me live? Increasing the price by 50,000 in one go. The Bodhi bead was good, but without sufficient spirit stones, it would be useless. This made some extreme astral reaching experts gnash their teeth in anger. 160,000. The facts proved that there were astral reaching experts with incomparably deep pockets. Especially the leaders of some dark forces, their wealth was all plundered. 200,000. The one bidding was still Morong Chingcheng. Without Yi Chen bidding, she had nothing to worry about. The Bodhi bead was something she had to obtain. 210,000. In the VIP room, a majestic middle-aged man shrouded in a black robe bid. 250,000. Morong Chingcheng raised her hand again. VIP room number 398, I'll remember it. This Bodhi bead will be mine sooner or later. The black-robed man gave up on bidding, not because he didn't have enough spirit stones, but because he didn't feel the need. As for the previous bid, it was purely because he didn't want any accidents to happen. After all, only when he got the item immediately would he feel at ease. Unfortunately, Morong Chingcheng increased the price by 40 to 50,000 each time, as if she wouldn't give up until she got the Bodhi bead. This made him want to kill her. If he killed Morong Chingcheng, not only would he get the Bodhi bead, he would also save a few 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 270,000. The auction house went silent for a moment, then another bid was heard. It was from the three brothers. Individually, none of them had so many mid-grade spirit stones. But, if they added them up, they would. In any case, the Bodhi bead wasn't a one-time use item, and could be used in turns. Of course, ordinary people wouldn't do this, since they wouldn't feel at ease. However, the three brothers were like brothers, and didn't have such worries. 280,000. Morong Chingcheng wasn't an idiot. When the price reached 270,000, there was no one else bidding. There was no reason for her to continue increasing the price by 40 to 50,000. As expected, the three brothers gave up. They had a total of 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Adding the two unused mid-grade artifacts, they only had 270,000. They didn't have the ability to increase the price any further. With the Bodhi bead in hand, Morong Chingcheng let out a sigh of relief. Coming to Extreme Yin region was indeed the right choice. Not only did she obtain a glove-type mid-grade artifact, she also obtained an extremely rare Bodhi bead. However, these two items had almost exhausted her entire fortune. Congratulations. Yi Chen smiled. Putting away the Bodhi bead, Murong Qingqing asked with interest, "Why don't you need the Bodhi bead?" If the other party also needed it, her chances of obtaining it wouldn't be more than 30%. Even if she used her other items as collateral, it wouldn't be more than 50%. Yi Chen said, "My comprehension is enough." Of course, he wouldn't say that his soul power was several times that of an ordinary person, equivalent to a Sea of Soul realm expert. Murong Qingqing looked pensive. She subconsciously thought that Yi Chen had a treasure similar to the Bodhi bead. The 48th item is a head-sized demonic evil stone. The starting price is 250,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 5,000. Just at this moment, the old man dropped a bomb. A demonic fiend stone the size of a human head appeared on the stage. Based on a rough estimate, this demonic fiend stone was at least 15 times the size of the demonic fiend stones that had been auctioned off earlier. It was silver with a hint of black light, causing everyone's hearts to beat faster. A head-sized demonic evil stone. Haha, let's see how you're going to compete with me this time. Duan Lingyun couldn't help but sneer. At the same time, he was inwardly grateful to Ghost Moon. Without his reminder, he would have wasted his mid-grade spirit stones on those 3 small demonic evil stones. Murong Qingqing's eyes also brightened, but she immediately shook her head. Her fortune had already been exhausted, and she didn't have the qualifications to compete. With this thought in mind, she couldn't help but glance at Yi Chen, who revealed a faint smile. Chapter 4:17. Brother, we can't eat this demonic evil stone alone. Why don't we join hands and split it? The cake was too big for one person. Many astral reaching experts in the ordinary seats began to rack their brains, sending Jin Yuan transmissions to the people nearby. Then who should we give the spirit stones to? How can we be at ease? If you turn hostile, won't we suffer a double loss? Someone asked. This is simple. You don't need to give the spirit stones to anyone. Just buy it. After buying it, everyone will hand over their spirit stones, then cut the demonic evil stone in front of everyone. Everyone will split it. What do you think? There was no problem in this world that couldn't be solved, and a problem that could be taken out wasn't a problem at all. This method is not bad. But, just the few of us are not enough. Don't worry, I've already contacted others. This demonic evil stone is equivalent to 15 times more demonic evil stones. Inviting 15 people is no problem at all. Then, each person will pay 50,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 15 people will be 750,000. Let me make it clear here. Those who don't have 50,000 mid-grade spirit stones will automatically withdraw. Of course, you can also pawn your things to the auction house. I have 70,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Give me a bit more when the time comes. Sure. All of a sudden, a lot of people thought of this method and contacted the astral reaching experts nearby. Those who didn't have enough wealth even invited more than 20 astral reaching experts who had the same wealth as them. 30,000 for each of them, 20 of them would be 600,000 to 700,000 in total. 300,000. Finally, someone was the first to bid. 350,000. 450,000. 450,000. 550,000. It was like a plague. The price rose by 50,000 by 50,000, which made some people who didn't know anything dumbfounded. Since when were there so many rich people? Of course, there were also some people who noticed that something was wrong. They immediately came to their senses and contacted others. The old man on the stage saw everything, but didn't make any move. For the auction house of Extreme Yin region, as long as one could afford the price, it didn't matter what method one used. Even if one gathered several hundred or thousands of people, it was still one's ability. However, if one couldn't afford the price, then one had to apologize. At best, one would be punished as a warning to others. At worst, one would have to work for the auction house for the rest of their lives. 600,000. 650,000. The price continued to climb, making the astral-reaching realm warriors in the VIP rooms frown. They had no choice but to contact the astral-reaching realm warriors in the nearby VIP rooms. Morong Qingqing said to Yi Chen, "I still have 130,000 medial-grade spirit stones. I can lend them to you. However, from the looks of it, this demon fiend rock will not be sold for less than 8 or 900,000. You don't have to worry about that. I can still fork out 800,000 to 900,000 middle-grade spirit stones." Yi Chen wasn't worried about others joining hands to bid for it. After all, no matter how good an item was, it would have a limit to its value. This demon fiend stone might seem large, but if it was divided evenly, it would be less. Therefore, 20 people was the limit. If there were more than 20 people, then it would be meaningless. This little demon fiend stone wouldn't have much use. Moreover, the ones participating in the bidding were all peak astral reaching experts and extreme astral reaching experts. They couldn't possibly not see how many people participating would be beneficial to them. Hearing those words, Morong Qingqing couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Just how much wealth did the other party have? To be able to take out 8 to 900,000, it seemed like it was more than that. As Yi Chen expected, when the price reached 800,000, the number of people participating in the bidding had decreased by 70%, and the remaining 30% were still stubbornly holding on. 850,000. Duan Lingyun didn't expect that there would be so many people participating in the bidding. He was caught unprepared for a moment. By the time he came back to his senses, the price of the demon fiend stone had already exceeded his net worth. Fortunately, Ghost Moon had lent him 550,000 medial-grade spirit stones. Adding his own wealth, it had reached 950,000. With 850,000 medial-grade spirit stones gone, the remaining 30% had decreased by 70%. There were less than 10 people participating. Yi Chen didn't bid. He liked to make the final decision. There wasn't much meaning in bidding right now. 860,000. Finally, the increment slowed down. 870,000. 870,000. 880,000. Damn! 18 people joining hands and still can't take it down. What the hell is this? In the ordinary seats, everyone quieted down. Only a few wealthy people in the VIP rooms were bidding. 900,000. Duan Lingyun couldn't hear Yi Chen's voice, so he thought that the latter had already given up. He felt a lot more carefree, thinking to himself, "I'll take down the demon fiend stone and give some to Morong Qingqing. She'll definitely thank me, and their relationship will be much closer." 920,000. The one bidding was an extreme astral reaching expert in the VIP room. His own wealth naturally wasn't that high, only 100,000. He only dared to bid after joining hands with a dozen others. Unfortunately, many of them didn't have many spirit stones left. In the previous auctions, they had more or less won a few things. Duan Lingyun sneered, 950,000. Forget it, let's not compete anymore. The other side is in the 5th floor's VIP room. There must be a Sea of Soul Realm expert behind them. We can't compete. At this moment, no one else increased the price. Just as the old man opened his mouth, a clear voice rang out, 1 million. Absolute silence. The entire auction house was completely silent. 1 million. This was an amount that even some Sea of Soul Realm experts couldn't take out. Although the previous 950,000 was close to 1 million and not much different from 1 million, 950,000 was 950,000, and 1 million was 1 million. The weight of the two was different in people's hearts. At least, the latter was more heart-shaking. It's that guy who bought the demon fiend stone again. His wealth is too frightening. Don't tell me he also contacted other astral-reaching experts like us. Regardless, his personal wealth is absolutely abundant. He had just used 200,000 mid-grade spirit stones to buy 3 small demon fiend stones, and now he's aiming for this head-size demon fiend stone. Someone without a bit of wealth wouldn't do this. Bastard, it's him again. Duan Lingyun clenched his teeth. At the same time, he was astonished at where Yi Chen got his mid-grade spirit stones from. Could it be that Murong Qingqing lent him some? But, Murong Qingqing had already spent more than 300,000, so there shouldn't be much left. Of course, he must have borrowed some more. Thinking of this, Duan Lingyun's anger flared up. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at Ghost Moon, hoping that he would lend him some more. Ghost Moon shook his head. Lending you 500,000 is already my limit. But, even if I had more, I wouldn't lend it to you. You should think before doing things. Why compete with him in the auction? What's yours will be yours in the end. It can't run away. Supreme Elder, you mean? Duan Lingyun stared blankly for a moment, then thought of a possibility. Ghost Moon smiled strangely, but didn't say anything. Duan Lingyun's taut nerves finally relaxed, and he no longer made another bid. He thought to himself, continue to be arrogant. When we leave the city, I'll personally challenge you and make you spit out everything you've got with interest. My soul-splitting divine eyes can only be used to their greatest effect in battle. I underestimated you that time. Although the soul-splitting divine eyes was very powerful in terms of eyes, combat power was combat power. It wasn't enough to rely on the eyes alone. If he knew that Yi Chen's sword intent was so powerful, he definitely wouldn't have used the soul-splitting divine eyes to fight him. During a battle, Yi Chen's sword intent would only be used to amplify his attack, while his soul-splitting divine eyes could affect Yi Chen's sword intent, greatly reducing his combat power. Feeling that everything was under his control again, Duan Lingyun's mood was much better. 1 million mid-grade spirit stones had already exceeded everyone's psychological bottom line and wealth bottom line. No one had the heart to spare, so they could only watch as the demon evil stones fell into Yi Chen's hands. These 3 demon evil stones are for you. With the large demon evil stones in hand, Yi Chen took out 3 small demon evil stones and gave them to Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing was actually thinking of buying the 3 small demon evil stones from Yi Chen. She planned to borrow some mid-grade spirit stones from the Supreme Elder, but who would have thought that Yi Chen would give them to her without any hesitation? Her beautiful eyes stared at Yi Chen. These 3 demon evil stones cost you 200,000. That's not too good, right? Then you can give me your mid-grade spirit stones. Yi Chen didn't care about trifles. If he wanted to give, he would. What others did had nothing to do with him. Here are 135,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Murong Qingqing directly handed a low-grade storage ring to Yi Chen. Yi Chen didn't even look at it and put it away. Thank you. Holding the 3 small demon evil stones, Murong Qingqing's face revealed a faint smile. As far as she was concerned, this auction was already a perfect success. Not only did she obtain a glove-type mid-grade artifact, she also obtained a rare Bodhi bead. Now that the demon evil stones were in her hands, what else could she be dissatisfied with? After the commotion of the large demon evil stone, the auction stage began to surge like a storm. The following treasures were all things that left astral-reaching experts dumbfounded. 50th item, upper-grade artifact 3-flower scythe spear, mid-grade. The starting price is 30,000 upper-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 1,000 upper-grade spirit stones. Not to mention other astral-reaching experts, even Yi Chen couldn't join in. 30,000 upper-grade spirit stones was something even ordinary Sea of Soul realm experts couldn't afford. And Yi Chen only had 3,000 upper-grade spirit stones, not even enough to buy a spearhead. 32,000. 33,000. 38,000. The bidding of Sea of Soul realm experts was a lot more reserved. It wasn't that they didn't want to make the final decision, but that they didn't have that many upper-grade spirit stones. Spirit stones were mined from spirit veins. Low-grade spirit veins were the most abundant, followed by mid-grade spirit veins. Upper-grade spirit veins were few and far between. A 6th-grade sect couldn't even occupy one, and had to divide it evenly among many 6th-grade sections. If mid-grade spirit stones could be mined in large quantities, then upper-grade spirit stones wouldn't be mined in large quantities every year, unless they could find a new upper-grade spirit vein. Of course, there was another method, and that was to search for ancient ruins. Some important ancient ruins would have a lot of upper-grade spirit stones. Every time they appeared, the 6th-grade sects would fight to the death. Occasionally, a 5th-grade sect would intervene and take the majority. In the end, this 3-flower scythe spear was bought by Old Man Sky Eagle for 42,000 upper-grade spirit stones. After the 3-flower scythe spear, the most expensive item was a palm-sized demonic fiend crystal, which could help Sea of Soul realm experts refine their martial soul. It was a top-grade demonic fiend crystal, and its entire body was like a crystal, unlike demonic fiend stone, which was like a crystallized coal. The one who had the strength to buy it was naturally not an ordinary person. It was a Sea of Soul realm master, and its price reached 83,000 upper-grade spirit stones. The starting price of the next item is very low, but if it's real, then it's definitely worth it. Everyone should have heard of the legend of Undying Body before reaching Life and Death realm. This item is precisely related to the secret of Undying Body. Undying Body. The old man's words immediately piqued everyone's appetite. From clasping Yuan martial artists to Sea of Soul realm experts, not a single one of them didn't care. It should be known that Undying Body was the privilege of Life and Death kings. If one could have an undying body before reaching Life and Death realm, then how frightening would that be? Among experts of the same realm, one would be almost invincible. With an undying body, one would be able to explore many dangerous forbidden areas. Chapter 418. Undying Body. Murong Qingqing's brows twitched. For people under the Life and Death realm, the allure of the undying body was beyond imagination. Life and Death realm was hard to reach, this was the common understanding of the whole true spirit continent. Since the ancient era until now, the number of Life and Death kings born every 100 years did not exceed 10. Occasionally, there would be more, but it would not be too excessive. It should be known that the population of the true spirit continent was close to 100 trillion. Geniuses were as numerous as the stars in the ocean, and there were countless of them. However, after 100 years, only 10 geniuses would be able to reach the Life and Death realm. How hard was it? Countless people squeezed onto a single log bridge, and only a few would succeed. How hard was it? Only by experiencing it personally would one understand what was going on. Therefore, the Sea of Souls realm was the limit of most people's potential, and it was impossible for them to continue growing stronger. At this time, the undying body would be their ultimate goal. With the undying body, they would at least be able to compete with Life and Death realm kings in some aspects, which was enough to drive people crazy. Yi Chen could not help but be moved. The undying body of Life and Death realm seemed to have 2 realms on the surface, but in fact, there were 3 realms. The first was regrowing limbs, the second was flesh growth, and the last was blood rebirth. The only difference was that not everyone could reach the second realm. Of course, it did not mean that the second realm was harder than the third, but that some people would directly jump from the first realm to the third realm without going through the second realm, which would take a lot of time. On the other hand, people with great talent and comprehensive ability would advance step by step, and would not neglect the second realm. After all, only after going through the second realm and reaching the third realm would one's foundation be more solid. Moreover, jumping from the first realm to the third realm was simply too hard. More than 99% of people would not be able to make it, and would only be stuck at the first realm. Whether it was the first realm, the second realm, or the even higher third realm, they were all beyond the imagination of ordinary people. It could be said that having the undying body was equivalent to having a greater potential. Life and death battles, breaking into forbidden areas, and stepping into unknown dangerous areas all required the support of the undying body. Living longer was also a talent that could not be ignored. Cough, cough, cough. On the auction stage, the old man coughed a few times and slowly said, "The auction item I'm talking about is a map to find the secrets of the undying body. The starting price is 1,000 medium-rank soul stones." Once again, I can't guarantee the authenticity of the map. If it is a fake, please don't be angry, otherwise, the starting price will be much higher than 1,000 medium-rank soul stones. A starting price of 1,000 medium spiritual stones, Elder Gao, this is too low. Whether it's real or fake, as long as it contains information about an immortal body, it's enough to fetch a sky-high price. Someone voiced out his doubts. It wasn't that he was stupid and wanted the price to be higher because he had a lot of spirit stones. Rather, he was a little worried. No matter how he looked at it, a map that contained the secrets of an undying body was worth more than 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. There was definitely something fishy about it. Perhaps, the auction house also believed that this map was fake. Yeah! Elder Gao, what's going on? If you don't explain clearly, we won't dare to bid for it. This person had clearly spoken out what everyone else was thinking. All of them looked curiously at Old Man Gao. Old Man Gao smiled and said, because there isn't just one map, but 300 of them. 300 identical maps, the starting price for each is 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. What? 300? Are you kidding me? The auction house was in an uproar. Old Man Gao was already prepared for this kind of situation. He cleared his throat and said, all right, I won't explain too much. The starting price for each map is 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. For most people, this is not a high price. As for whether or not you want to buy it, that's up to you. The bidding for the first map begins now. The auction house was quiet. No one called out a price. Most people were just waiting and watching. Old Man Gao was not in a hurry. No matter what, whether the map was real or fake was still uncertain. He didn't believe that no one would bid for it. Once there was a first, there would be a second, and then a third. The auction would only become more and more popular. Right now, no one was bidding. It was just the calm before the storm. There was no need to panic. 1,000. A starting price of 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones was indeed not high. However, if it was 10,000, then it might not necessarily be the case. Therefore, after a moment of silence, the first bid rang out. 1,100. It took a while for the second bid to catch up. In VIP room 398, Yichen raised his hand and said, 2,000. Hearing him, a lot of people looked over at the VIP room Yichen was in. Everyone knew how rich he was, and it was not something normal people could compete with. Plus, there were 300 copies of the map, so there was no need to fight for the first one. With that thought in mind, no one continued to bid. Just like that, Yichen obtained the first map. Murong Qingqing smiled. She understood Yichen's way of doing things. 300 maps seemed like a lot, but there would be a time when they would all be auctioned off. At that time, there would be too many monks and not enough meat. Instead, the price would increase. If she bought it now, she could save a lot of spirit stones. The second map began to be auctioned. Just like the first map, there were not many people bidding for it. It stopped at 2,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 3,000. The one who made the bid was Murong Qingqing. Although she had given all her mid-grade spirit stones to Yichen, she still had an unused mid-grade artifact. If she mortgaged it to the auction house at a low price, it would be worth 20 to 30,000 mid-grade spirit stones. As for her thoughts, she was the same as Yichen. She wanted to buy it and take a look. Even if it was fake, she would only lose 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones at most. This map is very strange. It's not animal figures, it's abstract figures. Yichen opened the animal skin scroll and found that this map was different from normal maps. There was no road map, but only a line that connected everything together. The starting point was a rooster, followed by a skull, then a toad, 2 circles and a square. Yichen couldn't figure out what was going on. Murong Qingqing opened her own animal skin scroll, frowned and said, maybe it's a hint, or maybe it's fake. It's just deliberately mystifying. It was easy to tell if a normal map was real or fake. If one put something that they could not understand on it, it would be possible to fool people for a while. Yi Chen nodded. There will be many people studying this map. We can just watch from the sidelines. 300 copies of the same map. There had never been such a precedent in Three City. After this auction, it would no doubt cause a huge uproar. Next, the third map was sold for 2,500 mid-grade spirit stones. The fourth, 2,800. The fifth, 3,200. Up to the 50th map, the price did not exceed 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. But at the 51st map, the situation finally warmed up. The bids gradually increased, breaking 5,000 for the first time, reaching 5,100. Many people regretted it. If they had known this would happen, they would have bought one at the beginning. Now that they wanted to buy it, the price had doubled. The smart people finally made up their minds and prepared to buy one. Those who were hesitant were still waiting. They wanted to buy it at a low price when there was no one else to bid. Unfortunately, they would not have this chance again. The price of the map kept rising. Occasionally it would fall, but it was very limited. People were strange. When no one was paying attention, they would not pay attention. But when there were too many people paying attention, they could not help it. There were very few people who could keep their hearts. 10,000. Someone bid 10,000 for the 223rd map. You are crazy. 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones for a map whose authenticity is unknown. The person next to him had a complicated expression. In fact, he also wanted the map. I am not crazy. There are already more than 200 maps. If I do not buy it now, even 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones may not be enough. Wait a little longer. Maybe the price will fall quickly. Just wait. I do not want to regret it. The 258th map. 15,000. 16,000. 18,000. The scene finally exploded. There were only more than 40 maps left. Whether they regretted it or not, it was meaningless. Those who wanted it would naturally go all out. Those who did not want it would not be moved even if they died. Of course, the number of the latter was pitifully low. 20,000. The bidder was in the VIP room on the 5th floor. The old man was startled. He could naturally tell that the bidder was Ein Demon Ancestor. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and he came to a shocking conclusion. The map might very well be real, at least in Ein Demon Ancestor's eyes. Otherwise, there would be no need for him to bid for his item. This was clearly a show for other Sea of Soul Realm experts. After all, there were many people who knew him, and they could tell from his voice alone. This way, people would not associate the map's original owner with Ein Demon Ancestor. On the contrary, if he did not buy it, it would inevitably raise suspicion. Which Sea of Soul Realm experts would not be tempted by the undying body? Even Sea of Soul Realm experts were no exception. Fuck. This is too much of a scam. The first 2,000 mid-grade spirit stones was enough to bid for it. How could it reach 20,000 in such a short time? Who told you not to buy it earlier? Brother, let's share one map. With your strength, you cannot do it alone. The more people, the more hope. Don't try to take advantage of me. I bid for it with 9,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Give me 6,000, we can share. Who are you trying to scam? Wasn't half 4,500? The price has increased. You win. On the auction platform, the old man's face was beaming with happiness. The situation was exactly as he had expected. There was not even 1 in 10,000 people who could remain unmoved by the undying body. Some people knew that they were not strong enough, but they still wanted to give it a try. Of course, this was not because they were overestimating themselves. Strength was important, but luck was even more important. Luck was not always on the side of the strong. There are 3 maps left. After that, there will be no more. The 298th map, let the bidding begin. As soon as he spoke, the bidding didn't stop, reaching more than 30,000. The bidder was a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Only Sea of Soul Realm experts could keep their composure. In any case, several tens of thousands of mid-grade spirit stones were nothing to them, so they didn't need to be calculative. The next two maps were sold at an even higher price. The second one was sold at 45,000 mid-grade spirit stones, while the last one was sold at 50,000. Both were won by Sea of Soul Realm experts. The astral reaching experts who had spirit stones earlier but didn't bid, and wanted to bid later but didn't have enough spirit stones, were filled with regret. They all made up their minds that if they had such an opportunity in the future, they would definitely be the first to bid. However, it was easy to say, but when it came to the crucial moment, how many people could remember their original determination? The auction of the maps ends here. Next is the final item. As the disturbance of the map passed, the auction reached its end. Apart from the Sea of Soul Realm experts who had some wealth, the majority of the people weren't paying attention to the final item. They were studying the maps in their hands. Not to mention, some people who had studied the history of Extreme Een region were able to see something. Chapter 419. There are 3 places in Extreme Een region that are related to the rooster diagram. One is Chicken Crow Valley, the other is the nearby Chicken Crow Town, and the last one is the Chaoyang Mountains, where the first 11th grade demonic beast King Cyan Radiance Chicken was born. Chicken Crow Valley and Chicken Crow Town don't have any special meaning. It's most likely in the Chaoyang Mountains. On the ordinary seats, an astral reaching realm expert mumbled to himself. The people around him stared at him like a tiger watching its prey. "What are you guys doing?" The person came to his senses and promptly shut his mouth. Unfortunately, words spoken were like spilled water, unable to be taken back. "Hee, nothing much. Join our group. Otherwise, we'll kill you once we get out." "That's right. Joining our group is much better than the group of Sea of Soul Realm experts. At least you'll have a chance to obtain the secrets of the undying body." At this moment, those who had studied the history of Extreme Een region became highly sought after. Some willingly teamed up with their friends, while others were exposed by those in the know and forced to team up. In any case, the amount of information contained in this map was too great. Only with more people would there be a chance to unravel it. When the final treasure was sold for 120,000 upper-grade spirit stones, the auction came to a successful conclusion, and everyone left one after another. I'm really looking forward to it. I wonder how many steps they can unravel. In the VIP room, Een Demon Ancestor was leisurely drinking tea. For the first 50 years, he had painstakingly studied day and night, unraveling more than half of the map. Unfortunately, the further he went, the more meaning the map contained. He simply couldn't speculate. Even if he flipped through the history of Extreme Een region, he still couldn't find a single clue. Of course, history couldn't be studied just because one wanted to. Some seemingly unimportant details might be the key to unraveling the map. Outside the auction house, Murong Qingqing reminded, "You have to be careful of that ghost moon spiritualist. Soul Sunder's sect has quite a bit of research in the field of souls and strange things. Because of this, the people in the sect are somewhat unscrupulous. From the ordinary outer disciples to the leader of Soul Sunder's sect, none are different." "I know." Yi Chen faintly nodded. He could faintly feel that Duan Lingyun's soul was very unstable. This kind of instability did not mean that it had collapsed, but because he had cultivated some secret art, causing his soul to become extremely dark and extreme. His appearance was sunny on the outside, but his heart was filled with darkness. True Spirit Continent had many demonic cultivators, but demonic cultivators also had their depths. Duan Lingyun and his Soul Sunder sect were undoubtedly the deeper ones. Their temperament was influenced by their soul, giving others a feeling that they were nothing to be worried about. However, one should never believe the nonsense that evil would never triumph over good. Although one's temperament was important in cultivation, the heavenly Tao was unpredictable. People with bright hearts might not necessarily have great accomplishments, and those with dark hearts might not necessarily have great accomplishments. Just like how good people might not necessarily have good retribution, and evil people might not necessarily have evil retribution. The only thing Yi Chen could do was to firmly believe in his Tao. The auction continued. The auction continued for the entire morning, and the demon sect star. The sect. After lunch, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing walked out of the private room and went back to their own rooms. In the spacious and luxurious guest bedroom, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the bed and took out a head-sized demonic fiend stone. The demon evil stone was like a huge crystallized coal. It felt cold and sharp when held in one's hand. The dark evil power contained in it even froze the water power in the air. Ice crystals fell on the ground, forming a thin layer of frost. Yi Chen ignored the gloomy coldness of the demonic fiend stone. His glabella swelled up, and his sword intent surged out, guiding a large amount of gloomy baleful qi into his body. Sizzle! The dark baleful qi was like a leech that had seen blood. After squirming for a while, it followed the meridians that were wrapped in true essence and entered the sea of soul between his eyebrows. The soul sea surged violently, the coldness was wanton, and it was filled with a deathly silence. Refine. When refining the blood evil stone's baleful qi, Yi Chen didn't have it easy. But now, his sword's soul embryo was even more powerful. It even had a will radiance, and its might was second only to Sea of Soul Masters. Therefore, he naturally didn't put the demonic fiend stone, which was 20% weaker than the blood evil stone, in his eyes. The ancient longsword above his Sea of Soul trembled, and a frightening sword intent halo spread out, dispersing the coldness and refining the deathly silence. The demonic fiend stone's baleful qi was used as nourishment, gradually strengthening itself. The demonic fiend stone's baleful qi was unwilling to become prey. It struggled with all its might, destroying Yi Chen's Sea of Soul. At the same time, the huge demonic fiend stone in Yi Chen's hand poured out even more gloomy baleful qi, reinforcing the vanguard and clashing with Yi Chen's sword soul embryo. Kacha! Kacha! Patches of gloomy baleful qi were shattered by the sword intent halo, unable to form an effective counterattack against Yi Chen's sword intent. With the refinement of the gloomy baleful qi, Yi Chen discovered that his sword intent was becoming increasingly condensed. The ancient longsword, which was the sword's soul embryo, grew from 3 fingers long to 4 fingers long, and was still growing. The will radiance was a silver radiance, seeping out from within the sword's soul embryo. It didn't change at all. What it needed wasn't refinement, but comprehension. As for the sword intent halo, it had expanded by a fold. Although it was called a halo, it was actually the remnant sword intent ripples emitted by the sword's soul embryo, forming a protective layer around it. 4 fingers long. 4.5 fingers long. 5 fingers long. When the sword's soul embryo reached 5 fingers long, it finally stopped growing. It had reached a critical point, and if it continued to grow, it would become a true sword soul. Cutting off the connection with the demonic fiend stone, Yi Chen opened his eyes. Half a day and a night had passed outside. From yesterday's afternoon to this morning, the air carried a fresh aura. Huff! Slowly letting out a breath of impure qi, Yi Chen looked at the demonic fiend stone. The coal-like demonic fiend stone had lost most of its color, gradually turning transparent. There was still about 20% of the gloomy baleful qi inside. In other words, in half a day and a night, Yi Chen had absorbed 80% of the gloomy baleful qi, condensing the sword's soul embryo to the critical point. He was just one step away from becoming a sword soul. Putting away the demonic fiend stone, Yi Chen slightly stretched his body and walked down from the bed. The sword's soul embryo has reached the critical point. I wonder how powerful it will be. Locking his eyes on the half-man-tall bonsai in the bedroom, Yi Chen's forehead swelled. A shapeless sword intent shot out, slicing through the interior of the bonsai. Swoosh! The huge bonsai withered at a speed visible to the naked eye, eventually lying down in the pot, without a trace of vitality. A beam of sword intent had killed the life force of the bonsai. This was a sword intent that could kill a clasping Yuan realm warrior's soul. Yi-Chen felt that it was not that simple, so he walked over to the bonsai. He reached out his hand and dug out a piece of soil from the pot. The color of the soil had turned yellow, which was a sign of losing organic matter. That beam of sword intent had not only killed the bonsai's life force, it had also destroyed the nutrients in the soil. It had already started to have an effect on reality. Back then, when my sword intent reached 50%, I had also killed the life force of a bonsai. However, that bonsai was only the size of a palm, and it was a delicate species. If I didn't water it for a day, it would fall sick. Moreover, I had only killed the life force on the leaves, not completely. Right now, this bonsai is half a man tall, and it is a very tenacious species, able to thrive in a place like the extreme Yin region. However, once my sword intent was released, all of the life force was still killed, and even the nutrients in the soil were killed. It was more than 10 times stronger than before, or even more than 30 to 50 times stronger than before. At the beginning, the sword intent was incorporeal. Once it reached the level of incorporeal, it would be able to kill some minuscule things. As the incorporeal deepened, it would be able to kill more and more things. Eventually, it would be able to forcefully affect reality, just like the martial will of a life and death king. Under that kind of frightening will, even mountains and rocks would shatter, and a person would be dismembered for no reason. Compared to before, the sword intents might has increased by about 30%. If Ghost Moon hadn't comprehended the profound left behind by the predecessors, he would be completely confident in defeating him. However, Soul Sunder's sect is a 6th grade sect, so it's impossible for them to have no profound martial skills. On the contrary, they would have a lot of them. Ghost Moon must have comprehended the profound of the predecessors to increase his strength. I wonder how much of the profound martial skills he has comprehended. Before comprehending one's own profound martial skill, learning others' profound martial skills was undoubtedly the wisest choice. It could also increase one's own experience. Therefore, Yi-Chen didn't have 50% certainty against Ghost Moon. If his cultivation base could increase from late astral reaching realm to peak late astral reaching realm, then he wouldn't need to be afraid. Soon. After leaving Blue Mountain Island, with the support of enough upper-grade spirit stones, my cultivation base has progressed very quickly. Within 3 days, I should be able to break through to the peak of late astral reaching realm. After washing his face and rinsing his mouth, Yi-Chen opened his door and went to eat breakfast. At this moment, the door of Murong Qingcheng's room also opened. Just like Yi-Chen, Murong Qingcheng had also been cultivating since yesterday afternoon. She had completely consumed the evil chi of the 3 demonic evil stones, and her martial will had finally condensed into a martial soul embryo, which could greatly amplify attack, defense, and speed. Her battle power had increased by more than a little bit. It could be said that even if Shen Tujue hadn't died, he wouldn't have been Murong Qingcheng's opponent. This was because Murong Qingcheng's great sky demon art had already reached the 13th layer, while Shen Tujue was quite lacking. After all, how many people could cultivate a top-rank Earth-grade art to the 13th layer at the astral reaching realm? At least in South Rudra region, they were pitifully few. After washing her face and rinsing her mouth, Murong Qingcheng didn't have the slightest trace of exhaustion. The hair in front of her forehead was slightly damp. Her eyebrows were lightly swept, and her beautiful eyes sparkled. Her skin was abnormally smooth and white, and her nose was tall and straight. She exuded a holy elegance that was astonishingly seductive. Even Yi-Chen couldn't help but cast a sidelong glance. "Good morning." Yi-Chen suppressed his somewhat restless chi and blood and greeted her. "Let's eat breakfast together." Murong Qingcheng revealed a smile. As she approached Yi-Chen, a fragrant wind blew over. If an ordinary person smelled this fragrance, their bones would go soft. Of course, apart from Yi-Chen, there had never been anyone who could walk so close to her. This morning, a tiny bud was born in the hearts of the two without any reason. Walking down the stairs side by side, the two entered a private room. While eating breakfast, they studied the map together. Chapter 420. I know where the 12th sun pattern is. To the east of the land of extreme Yin, there is a golden desert with a radius of tens of thousands of miles. That is the place with the weakest earth chi and Yin chi. It symbolizes the sun of the land of extreme Yin. In the golden desert, a broken shrine would often appear out of nowhere. The sun pattern on the shrine is exactly the same as the one on the map. I saw it in an ancient book. Morong Qingqing put down her chopsticks and took out a yellowed ancient book from her storage ring. She opened it and handed it over to Yichen. Yichen took the book and carefully read it. After a while, he put down the book and said, according to the description, this dilapidated temple should be a building from ancient times and is located in another space. It will only be connected to this world when the sun rises. However, it will only exist for 3 days every month, and the time of its appearance is uncertain. Morong Qingqing nodded. Although I know where the 12th sun pattern is, I still need to know the previous 11 patterns. Since this map has no end, who knows what lies beyond the last pattern? It would be best to find someone who knows the history of extreme Yin region. However, I want to break through to the peak of late astral reaching realm in the next 3 days. I'll have to trouble you to find someone. In fact, Yichen didn't have that kind of urgent desire for the undying body. However, the opportunity was right before his eyes, and he couldn't ignore it. Who knew what he would discover in the process of searching for the secrets of the undying body? He couldn't act as if nothing had happened. All right, rest assured and cultivate. When Morong Qingqing heard that Yichen had another opportunity to make progress, she was already used to it. As for finding someone who knew the history of extreme Yin region, it wasn't too difficult. Regardless of the era, there would always be people who liked to study history. If she couldn't find one in 3 Yin city, she could go to another city. After eating breakfast, Yichen and Morong Qingqing greeted each other and returned to their guest room. The most important thing right now is to increase my strength. Once my cultivation base reaches the peak of late astral reaching realm, I'll be able to contend against ordinary Sea of Soul realm experts. Without exchanging blows with Sea of Soul realm experts, Yichen couldn't figure out their strength. Rather than pinning his hopes on Dragon King's will, he might as well strengthen himself. Only by strengthening himself would he have the confidence to contend. Who? Letting out a deep breath, Yichen sat cross-legged on the bed, took out 2 upper-grade spirit stones and started cultivating. The spirit stone Yuan Qi contained in high-grade spirit stones was extremely pure. It did not need to be tempered at all and could be directly transformed into quintessential essence. The only difference between it and quintessential essence was that it was thinner and not as condensed as quintessential essence. 100 strands of spirit stone Yuan Qi could be condensed into a strand of quintessential essence. 3 days passed in a flash. The morning of the 4th day. A powerful Jin Yuan fluctuation spread out from Yichen's room like a storm, engulfing the entire restaurant. The sharp qi belonging to the green lotus Jin Yuan soared into the sky, even cutting the flowing wind in the sky into pieces, cutting it off from the outside air. He broke through. In the guest room opposite, Morong Qingqing raised her head thoughtfully. His bones crackled as Yichen slowly opened his eyes. 2 beams of cold lightning shot out from his pupils, causing the air to stagnate. I've finally reached the peak of late astral reaching realm. If I don't break through to the Sea of Soul realm in the future, my Jin Yuan will not increase in the slightest. The amount of Jin Yuan one could contain was also different according to the difference in one's physique and soul. A person with a stronger physique and soul might be able to contain several times more Jin Yuan than a person with a weaker physique and soul, or even 10 times more. And in between, there was a relation of utilization. For example, if a person's physique was very strong, but his soul was not strong, then his Jin Yuan could only reach the limit of his soul's control. His physique would not be saturated at all. This was the same principle as a wooden bucket, where the water inside would always be at the same level as the shortest piece of wood. Yichen had cultivated the pure jade body boosting spell, and his body had also been tempered by the heavenly demonic flower. His physique was definitely second to none among astral reaching experts. Up until now, the only one who could surpass him in this aspect was Su Jing. However, Compared to his physique, Yi Chen's soul was even more powerful, which caused the Green Lotus Jin Yuan to reach the limit of his physique. It had yet to reach the limit of his soul's control. In other words, even if Green Lotus sword arts broke through to the 14th layer, the total amount of Jin Yuan would not increase. Only the purity of Jin Yuan was limitless. It's time to leave. Standing up, Yi Chen felt his whole body brimming with an indescribable aura. This was because his cultivation base had reached the limit of astral reaching realm. Before this, although his cultivation base was very close to the peak of late astral reaching realm, a gap was a gap, and it wouldn't change. However, when the power of this realm reached perfection, a mysterious feeling of control arose, and he had the desire to break the shackles of heaven and earth. Outside 3 City, 3 figures, 1 in the front and 2 in the back, headed east. In Extreme Yin region, the rooster pattern represents 4 places. The first is Rooster Crow Valley, the second is Rooster Crow Town, and the third is the Chaoyang Mountain where the first 11th grade demonic king Cyan Radiance Chicken was born. As for the last one, Rooster Crown Tree, very few people know about it. I only came across it by chance in an ancient book. The one leading the group was an old man in his 70s. His name was Wang Tong. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing both called him Old Wang. Old Wang's cultivation base was not weak, having long since reached mid-astral reaching realm. He had been traveling all year round, and had recently returned to his hometown, 3 City. Murong Qingqing had run into Old Wang on the antique street. Seeing that he was knowledgeable, she exchanged some words with him, and eventually decided on him as the leader. The reward that Elder Wang needed was not small at all. A high-rank Earth Realm Cultivation Skill Manual, 3 high-rank Earth Realm Martial Skill Manuals, a Lightness Skill Manual, 30,000 mid-rank Spirit Stones, and 500,000 low-rank Spirit Stones. Adding them all together, it was definitely a shocking amount of wealth. Of course, it wasn't that Old Wang was greedy. For someone like him who explored history, whenever he encountered something of research value, he would buy it even if he had to eat. He was often short of Spirit Stones, both mid-grade and low-grade. Moreover, when traveling alone, his battle strength couldn't be too weak. His cultivation technique and martial skill had to be a bit better, and he also had to have an agility technique manual, which could allow him to escape at a crucial moment. High-grade Earth-grade cultivation technique and 2 high-grade Earth-grade martial skill manuals were given to Wang Tong by Yi Chen. Because Wang Tong needed 3 unique martial skills, the 3rd martial skill manual was given to him by Murong Qingqing, Little Demonic Hand. When cultivated to the late stage, this martial skill could condense a small demonic force field. Be it in battle or defense, it was extremely outstanding, making Wang Tong beam with joy. Yi Chen didn't have the agility technique manual, so it was given to Wang Tong by Murong Qingqing. As for the Spirit Stones, they were all paid by Yi Chen. With a long sword on his waist, Yi Chen followed closely behind Wang Tong and asked, "Out of these 4 places, which one should we go first?" Wang Tong said, "Chicken Crow Valley and Chicken Crow Town can be eliminated, their history is too shallow. Yang Mountain Range and Coxcomb Tree are the places we need to go. Let's go to Yang Mountain Range first." "Hee, you guys can't go anywhere." On the mountain peak next to them, 2 human silhouettes flew over and blocked in front of the 3 of them. On the left was a handsome young man with a silver crown, and on the right was an old man wearing a ghost-swallowing cloud robe. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. He had long since guessed that Duan Lingyun wouldn't let him off so easily. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile as he walked forward and said, "That's fine too. Let's settle this trouble today." Duan Lingyun took out his azure dragon halberd and pointed it at Yi Chen. He said coldly, "That's right, it's time to end this. Today, this place will be the place of your death." Boom! Azure light exploded from the azure dragon halberd. Duan Lingyun tightened his grip, and the 2-meter-long halberd shot towards Yi Chen with a violent roar. The azure light streaked across the sky like an azure dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The dragon's body traversed across the mountain peak, its head stretched out and opened its mouth to bite. Duan Lingyun had used his killing move right from the start. Pushing Wang Tong a few miles away, Yi Chen's right hand grasped the sword hilt, and the azure wood sword was instantly unsheathed. The incomparably sharp sword light was like a wound that split the heaven and earth, and a tearing will gushed out, enveloping the incoming azure dragon energy. The azure dragon energy was broken into pieces, but Duan Lingyun had already used this opportunity to close in on Yi Chen. The heavy azure dragon halberd fell from the sky with great force. Ding! The sword and halberd collided, and sparks connected, radiating in all directions in a fan shape. The forest was set ablaze, and the mountain peak was burnt. Wherever the two went, the sky and earth were turned upside down. Bewitching Eye. His attack blocked, Duan Lingyun retreated. While he was retreating, his eyes shone brightly, and circles of misty ripples spread out, affecting Yi Chen's body. And it really came. Yi Chen was already prepared. Although he couldn't pull out his sword intent and use it alone like his opponent could, the gap between his battle power and Duan Lingyun's battle power was too big, and it wasn't something that could be made up for with a mere soul-sundering eye. Break! Withdrawing his Jin Yuan, Yi Chen waved out a sword filled with sword intent. Pop! Duan Lingyun's soul-sundering eye's first style was broken, and his face was extremely pale. Clenching his teeth, he forcefully used the second style, Chaotic Soul Eye, which was also the strongest style he could grasp. Chaotic Soul Eye, as its name suggested, could confuse the opponent's soul. The ripples it emitted did not have any pattern, and were ripple vortexes of different sizes. If one got too close, one's soul would feel like it was about to be sucked away. Wang Tong, who was watching the battle, was shocked. He was several li away from the battlefield, but he could still feel the power of Chaotic Soul Eye. He felt dizzy, and if it wasn't for Murong Qingqing using her martial will to isolate it, he would have lost his composure long ago. He couldn't help but be shocked by Duan Lingyun's strength, and even more shocked by Yi Chen, who was suppressing him. You're not my opponent. Let the old one do it. Inside the ripple vortex, Yi Chen raised his azure wood sword high, poured a powerful sword intent into it, and slashed down. Puff! Duan Lingyun spurted out a mouthful of blood, looking dispirited. During the battle, he had not only used the soul-sundering eye to affect Yi Chen's battle strength, but also launched sneak attacks. However, Yi Chen's battle strength was beyond his imagination. A casual attack from Yi Chen was able to push him back, and the soul-sundering eye was ineffective. Lingyun, back off! Ghost Moon moved. His figure flashed, and the surrounding space seemed to sway. His whole person was like a silhouette in a mirror, appearing 100 steps in front of Yi Chen in an extremely strange manner. Standing with his hands clasped behind his back, Ghost Moon looked down at Yi Chen. Kid, it's not easy for you to reach where you are today. I, Ghost Moon, also don't want to do something that will anger the heavens and the people. How about this? I'll give you a chance to live. Break your own arms and legs, then cut off your own tongue. How about that? In his eyes, Yi Chen was already a dead man. Saying such words was already enough to make him feel honored. He was not like other Sea of Souls realm warriors, who would fight and kill right from the start. He liked to destroy his opponent's faith first, letting him know that no matter how hard he struggled, the result would not change, and then give him a cruel choice. Chapter 421. Slowly but powerfully circulating his Jin Yuan, gradually increasing its speed, Yi Chen said indifferently, "Do you think I would be that stupid? You are Ghost Moon's spirit warrior, and nothing more than a spirit warrior. If you were a Sea of Soul realm master, saying such words wouldn't be a problem." Hearing his words, the injured Duan Lingyun and Wang Tong were stunned. Hearing Yi Chen's words, it seemed like he didn't put Sea of Soul realm experts in his eyes at all. For them, this was an inconceivable thing. Although spirit warriors were the lowest level of Sea of Soul realm experts, they were still Sea of Soul realm experts. They had already shed their mortal bodies, and were no longer considered mortals. If one were to challenge astral reaching realm experts with peak late clasping Yuan realm cultivation base, there might still be some people who could do it. However, after reaching peak late astral reaching realm, the chance of challenging Sea of Soul realm experts was infinitely close to zero. The number of geniuses in the southern sector could be counted on one's fingers, which included South Rudra region, Thunder region, Misty Snow region, Wavy Cloud region, and other 8 regions. Adding up all the geniuses in the 8 regions, they could be counted on one's fingers. On average, there wouldn't even be one person in each region. Moreover, the top 5 geniuses were basically all in the Thunder region and other regions, and the Thunder Princess was one of them. So, he was waiting for Ghost Moon's spirit warrior. Morong Qingcheng seemed to have understood something. Yi Chen had waited until he reached peak late astral reaching realm before leaving the Three Yin city. He must have guessed that he would have a battle with Ghost Moon's spirit warrior. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in such a hurry to make a breakthrough. The three's gazes fell on Ghost Moon's spirit warrior, wanting to see his reaction. The latter's face twitched a bit, and the gloomy killing intent could be felt from several li away. The lush forest below rapidly withered with him as the center, igniting a pale white flame. There is only a fine line between confidence and arrogance. Can I take your attitude as arrogance? Ghost Moon's spirit warrior sneered. Unfortunately, arrogant geniuses will fall sooner or later. Just like a shooting star in the night sky, no matter how bright it is, it will only last for an instant. A shooting star is short, but it can leave you with an eternal painful memory. You can give it a try. Yi Chen's eyebrows slightly swelled. At this moment, it was time to go all out. He couldn't hold anything back anymore. He also wanted to know how his strongest sword intent would perform. How arrogant! Since you're unwilling to do it yourself, I'll personally break your limbs and shatter your tongue. Let's see if you're as arrogant as you are now. Ghost Moon's spiritualist grinned, revealing his sharp teeth with a bone-piercing chill. Seeing that the two were about to exchange blows, Duanling and Wang Tong felt that it was not safe enough, so they backed out a couple more miles. Sea of Soul's realm warriors were not astral-reaching realm warriors, and their destructive power was shocking, as well as the ability to change the terrain. Right then, Wang Tong looked at Yi Chen with a worried expression. Although he did not know where Yi Chen got his confidence from, he had heard about the title of Ghost Moon's spirit warrior before, and he knew that he was not some fake warrior. Wanting to beat him with a cultivation of peak-level late astral reaching realm would be almost impossible. Duan Lingyun sneered. It was indeed a pity that he could not kill Yi Chen with his own hands, but he knew that a dead martial genius would no longer be a martial genius. Only by staying alive would one have the chance to reach the top. Who? The air next to Wang Tong twisted, and Morong Qingcheng appeared there. Miss Morong, aren't you worried? Wang Tong asked. Morong Qingcheng said, I have seen a lot of miracles from him. He is not the kind of person who can't see the situation clearly. In fact, he is more cautious than anyone else. More cautious than anyone else? Wang Tong was still suspicious. Pap! The air under his feet seemed to have turned into a huge sphere, exploding violently. Ghost Moon leaned his body forward as he opened his right hand, grabbing toward Yi Chen. A huge ghost hand with a hint of green appeared in the air, covering the whole sky and even the space where Yi Chen was standing. Brat, it is too late to regret now. Die! The ghost hand closed up, and the surrounding mountains cracked. Yi Chen's whole body fell into a completely dark world, looking like he was about to be squeezed into a meat paste by the ghost hand. Duan Lingyun laughed viciously, as if he could already see Yi Chen's miserable face. Green lotus reaching the sky. A muffled sound came out from the ghost hand, carrying a monstrous sword intent into everyone's ears. In the next second, the green sword light was like a towering tree that took root in the ghost hand. It instantly expanded from a seed to a height of hundreds of meters, breaking the ghost hand and tearing the ghost hand's aura apart. What? He broke my cage ghost hand in one go. Ghost Moon's pupils shrank. He was not surprised that he couldn't kill Yi Chen in one move, but it was hard for him to accept that it was broken in one move. His face was a little red. Breaking through the ghost hand's restraint, Yi Chen was thousands of meters high in the sky. He held the greenwood sword with both hands and slashed down from the sky. A terrifying scene occurred. The sword light, which was branded with the green lotus, was connected to the greenwood sword. It was hundreds of meters long and tens of meters wide. It fell from the sky with a momentum that could split the heaven and earth and slash the chaos. It fiercely fell on the top of Ghost Moon's head. Before the sword light arrived, the mountain below Ghost Moon's head cracked open. It was so dark that one couldn't see the bottom. Sword soul level sword intent. Ghost Moon was quite shocked. Cultivation was divided into different levels, and so were sword intents. Before one formed a sword soul, it would be called sword intent. After forming a sword soul, it would be a sword soul level sword intent. He did not know if Yi Chen had formed a sword soul or not, but this sword intent was definitely a sword soul level sword intent. He had once encountered a Sea of Souls realm sword artist, and that person's sword intent seemed to be even weaker than Yi Chen's. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. So, your sword intent has reached this level. But, if you think that you can compete with me with a sword soul level sword intent, then you are very wrong. Ghost Moon yelled as he crossed his arms and tore them apart. His huge sharp ghost claws blocked the sword light. Try it and you will know. His body slightly tilted, Yi Chen held the sword hilt with his left hand and changed his right hand to a reverse grip. He then slashed down. Chin. The sword light was connected with the greenwood sword. As the greenwood sword slashed down, so did the sword light. The two ghost claws were cut in half like they had been cut by a saw. At that critical moment, a pair of claw gloves appeared on Ghost Moon's hands, which barely managed to catch the sword light. Bright sparks were brought up. Top-rank attacking weapon. Yi Chen sighed. If his opponent did not have a top-rank weapon, he thought that he might have a chance to beat him. But now, the difficulty had doubled. It was not impossible for him to get the upper hand, but it would be impossible for him to beat him. Of course, it was still because he had hidden attacks. Without them, he would not even be able to compete with Ghost Moon. Wang Tong gasped. In that battle, Yi Chen had actually gotten the upper hand, which had completely overturned everything he knew. But, it seemed like it would end here. Ghost Moon was a Sea of Souls realm warrior himself, and he also had a top-rank weapon. There was no way he could beat him. I wonder what other tricks you have up your sleeves. Murong Qingqing frowned slightly. The battling power of Sea of Souls realm warriors could be divided into a couple of levels on the surface, but there were even more hidden levels. For example, whether or not a top-rank weapon was a huge difference. Ghost Moon was the great master of a rank 6 martial institution in the Wavy Cloud region, so he naturally would not lack top-rank weapons. She believed that Yi Chen must have thought of this, but as for what kind of tricks he had up his sleeves, she did not know. With the claw gloves on his hands, Ghost Moon was angry out of embarrassment. It was not because of anything else, but because he had been forced to use a top-rank weapon to block out the attack. Although part of it was because he had underestimated Yi Chen and did not use all of his power, he was still a Sea of Souls realm warrior. Very good. You have successfully pissed me off. My next attack will kill you for sure. With a top-rank attacking weapon, if he still could not kill Yi Chen, then he would really be ashamed. But of course, Ghost Moon did not think that Yi Chen would be able to escape this attack. 100 Ghost 1000 kill. The pitch-black claw glove burst out a breathtaking black light. As Ghost Moon waved his hand, countless claw shadows filled the sky, attacking towards Yi Chen one after another. Wherever the claw shadows went, the space started to vibrate intensely, layer upon layer, blurring the scene. Pooh! A mountain nearby exploded, sending dust into the sky. In this chaotic environment, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. He put his greenwood sword back into its scabbard and opened his palm, holding the 3 sword handles together. His green lotus Xin Yuan poured into the scabbard through his palm, connecting the 3 swords together in a special pattern. Ting! A sword sound pierced through the sky. Murong Qingcheng, Duan Lingyun, and Wang Tong could feel the hair on their bodies standing up. Right then, the sword intent and sword aura that exploded from Yi Chen's body had perfectly fused together. The whole world seemed to have turned into a sword. The mountain was the sword, the tree was the sword, the grass was the sword, and the water was also the sword. Right after that, a shocking sword light appeared, making the whole world lose its color. 3 swords combined into one. Yi Chen took out 3 swords at once, the Greenwood Sword, the Thunder Sword, and the Destruction Sword. The 3 swords were connected by Jin Yuan, causing their power to increase drastically, reaching the level of top-rank attacking swords. Under the amplification of the 3 swords combined into one, Yi Chen's sword intent and sword aura naturally blended together. The surrounding environment was affected by the sword intent and aura, becoming extremely sharp. Even a small stone could kill. Even a 300-meter-tall waterfall was drawn over by the sword intent, turning into a huge crystal-clear sword that floated behind Yi Chen's head. Kill! With a wave of the sword, the sky-covering claw shadows exploded one by one. At the same time, the huge sword that the waterfall had turned into also shot toward Ghost Moon. Impossible! Even if he has an upper-rank attacking weapon, it can't have this kind of power. Ghost Moon was shocked. Before, he had only used 60% of his power, and now that he had an upper-rank attacking weapon and his battling power had increased to 80 or 90%, he still couldn't do anything to his opponent. All of a sudden, his momentum suffered a huge blow, and he wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him. There are a lot of impossible things in the world. You still don't have the power to make me feel helpless. Now, take 1 sword attack from me. With the 3 swords combined into one, Yi Chen threw out a second sword attack, and the powerful sword Qi cut down dozens of mountains. Upon hearing that, Ghost Moon's face took on a ghastly expression. His face turned black, and his long and narrow eyes were bloodshot. A frightening and eerie aura soared into the sky, and as his robe fluttered, he looked like a devil standing in the human world, causing one to be frightened. Ignorant little bastard, you think you can make me regret my words and actions with this little power? You overestimate yourself, and you are too ignorant. At the same time, a white ghost fire ignited on Ghost Moon's body, and the ghost fire gathered into the shape of a skull. Even under the sun, it did not feel hot at all. Instead, there was only endless coldness and horror that could burn all spirits. Boom! With a strike of his palm, ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard. The pale ghost fire flooded the sky, and one could vaguely see the reflection of countless skulls on the surface of the ghost fire, opening their mouths and roaring. How stupid, to actually completely anger Elder Ghost Moon. If I don't anger him, I will be killed at most, but if I anger him, I won't be able to die even if I want to. The feeling of having my spirit extracted and my soul devoured by a ghost is not a good feeling. Duan Lingyun knew Ghost Moon's background very well, and a cruel sneer appeared on his face. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.